Hi guys, this is your math lesson for today. Our lesson target is I can use place value to round numbers to the nearest 10 or 100. So we are wrapping up our first lesson, which is about rounding to the nearest 10 or 100. And we're going to do some practice. We are going to do some practice problems. We're thinking about rounding to the nearest and 10 or 100. So remember that nearest, those are our friendly numbers that end in 0. So we're going to talk about a little bit how you can get some extra practice at the end, but we're going to go ahead and start. So when you start, we are going to be in our workbook on pages 21, 22, 23, and 24. I will let you know when we need to be on those pages. But for us today, we are going to start with a little warm-up, and it is round 453 to the nearest 10. So just like when we do our 3-read strategy at school, I'm going to read it 3 times. Round 453 to the nearest 10. I know this story is about rounding. Round 453 to the nearest 10. What is this asking me to do? It's asking me to go to the nearest 10. And round 453 to the nearest 10, I'm looking at this number 453. Now remember, when I look at the number 453, it's asking me to look at the tens. So I'm going to do just that. I'm going to look at the tens. This tells me I have 5 tens. So I know that my number is going to have 5 tens, which we know is 50 on one neighbor, and I know the other neighbor is going to be 110 more, which is 60, which I can tell I need to bring my 400, so I know my 2 neighbors for 453 are 450 and 460. Now, if you remember, we are looking at what is in the middle of these 2 numbers. So I know that between 50 and 60, the middle number is going to be 455. Now I'm looking at my number 453, so I know that that's going to be before 455. So 450, 451, 452, 453. So I know that if my number is before the halfway point, we round down. So we will be rounding 453 to 450. Awesome job. Okay, now that our brains are warmed up, we are going to look at page 21. And this is another problem that's rounding to the nearest 10. So here we go. Example. What is 362 rounded to the nearest 10? So again, I know that I'm rounding. I'm going to circle nearest 10 because that's really important. We're not doing hundreds, we're doing tens. And we know that the number we're looking at is 362. So this is an example. So they're showing us what we could do. Says, look at how you could show your work using base 10 blocks. I have 1, 2, 3 hundreds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tens, which I know is 60, and I have 2 ones. So the halfway number between the nearest tens is 5 ones, because 2 ones is less than 5 ones, round down. Now, that's very confusing for me. This, to me, makes no sense. So if you understand that, you're a genius. But I don't understand that. So I'm going to look at how we've been practicing. So we're going to take 362. We know the neighbors for the tens. One is going to stay the same. So we know that's 60. And we know it's 70 is the other neighbor. I know that my hundreds are staying the same because I'm looking at my tens. And now I can see that the number 362, well, I only have 2 ones. So I know that number is going to be closer to 360. I also know that number, if I look at the middle between 360 and 370, would be 365. And I know that 2 is less than 5. So I would round, see how good I can write this, round down to 360. Now, if you are a genius, and this does make sense to you, the halfway number between the nearest tens is 5 ones, because 2 ones is less than 5 ones, round down. That's amazing. We're looking at that in the same way. We're just using different language, okay? So let's move on to the next problem on page 21. It says, what is 879 rounded to the nearest hundred? Show your work. So in class, we decided there are 2 ways we can model our rounding. We can, whoop, kind of a bump there. We can use a number line, or we can use our base 10 blocks. So if I use a number line, I'm going to just draw 2 ends here. When I look at my problem, what is 879 rounded to the nearest hundred? I know I'm rounding, and I'm looking at the hundreds this time. And my number is 879. So if I have the number 879, and I am looking at the nearest hundred, I know my first neighbor stays the same. I'm gonna have 800 over here. And then my next neighbor is gonna be 900. 900. So at this end, we have 900. So if I find the halfway point between 800 and 900, I know that that's going to be 50, and I'm going to have an 8 there. I can draw it. Okay, 850. Now, I'm looking at my number 879. So does that number come before 850 or after 850? I want you to label where you think it goes. Now, if I'm looking at my number line between 850 and 900, I know I'm going to have 860, 870, 880, 890, and 900. So I know that 879, 60, 70, 80 is going to be right before 80. So my number 879 is way closer to 900. So I would round up. I would round up. Now, if I decided that this was not the way I liked, because we did see that our class was about half and half about who liked the base 10 blocks and who liked the number line. If this way wasn't my favorite, or I just wanted to check my work, I can do that because I'm going to draw my number 879 in base 10s. 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 1. So now I have 870. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and 9 ones. 1, gosh, that's hard. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. 1, 2, 3, oh my gosh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Now, if I'm looking at rounding this number 879, I'm going to look, I have 800s, check. Now, if my number is more than 850, I know I'm going to round up. So I'm just going to go look at the tens right away. Let's see, do I have more? Well, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tens. So I already know that's more than 850. So I can round using my number line or my base 10 blocks. So it's really how you want to decide how to do it. All right, let's look at page 22. We're looking at number 2 together. Here we go. Mr. Edwards picked out a TV for $479 and a DVD player for $129. He rounded each price to the nearest $10 to estimate the total cost. What is each price rounded to the nearest $10? Show your work. So if we ask ourselves, what is this story about? I know that this story is about picking out a TV and a DVD player. So they're just doing some shopping. I'm going to read it again. Mr. Edwards picked out a TV for $479 and a DVD player for $129. He rounded each price to the nearest $10 to estimate the total cost. What is each price rounded to the nearest $10? Show your work. So what is it asking me? It's asking me what each price is rounded to the nearest $10. All right, third and final read. Mr. Edwards picked out a TV for $479 and a DVD player for $129. He rounded each price to the nearest $10 to estimate the total cost. What is each price rounded to the nearest $10? I'm looking for my numbers. Now, this one's tricky. I have 479, 479, and I have here's my TV. I'm gonna write TV. And I have a DVD player for 129. So 129. That's gonna be my DVD, DVD. Okay, now this number 10 is right here. I don't need this one because I already know that we are looking at what each price is rounded to the nearest $10. So I'm rounding to the tens. So I'm going to look at $479 and $129. So I'm going to draw. Here's my TV. I'm going to draw my base 10 blocks. 400s, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 7. Oh my gosh, a 9 again. I'm super bad at drawing these 9s because they're so tiny. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh my goodness, 9. Okay, done. So if I'm rounding this to the tens, I'm going to look at my tens place. Here we go. 7 tens. Now, is 70 more than halfway? So if I look at my number, 470 and 480, because I'm rounding to the tens. So I'm looking at my 10 neighbors. So I have 70 here and 80 here. I'm going to put my middle, which is going to be 4, 7, 5. And I can see that this number 479 is all the way over here. It's almost all the way to 480. So I'm going to round 479 up to 480. Okay, so that's a pretty good deal on a TV. Okay, so our TV is about $480. Now, Mr. Edwards is shopping for a DVD player. Let's do this one with our base 10 blocks. Okay, so 100, 10, 20, and let me switch this, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right. Now again, I'm looking at my tens. So I'm going to go to my tens. Okay, so my 100 is going to stay the same. I have 2 tens. Okay, well, my neighbors for 2 tens are 20. And if I add more and more, I would have 30. Now, remember we have 100. So I'm going to add 100, 100. Now, I'm going to cut this in half. Halfway between 120 and 130, 125. And now I'm going to look and see, where does 129 come on my number line? Well, it's all the way over here next to 130. So 129 rounds up to 130. Ta-da! All right, if you need to take a break and come back, you're more than welcome to pause this video, take a break and come back. We're gonna start on page 22, number 3. All right, if you are back with me, we are doing number 3. It says, there are 416 third grade students at Lincoln School. What is the number of third grade students rounded to the nearest 100? Okay, so again, we're rounding. There are 416 third grade students at Lincoln School. What is the number of third grade students rounded to the nearest 100? What's important? 100. Last time, there are 416 third grade students at Lincoln School. What is the number of third grade students rounded to the nearest 100? My magic number, 416. Now, when I look at the number 416, I'm going to look at the hundreds place. I'm looking at the 2 neighbors of 416. I know I have 400 because it stays the same. I can't draw 0. And then my next neighbor would be 500. Okay, and just for good practice, I'm going to cut it in half. Halfway would be 450. Okay, now it says which number is the number of students rounded to the nearest 100. So let's see where this number would fall on our number line, 416. 400, 410, 420. Oh, I'm going to stop. 416 would be right about here. So I'm going to label this 416. And we're going to put a little point right there because that's where it would be. Now let's look at our answer choices. What is the number 416 rounded to the nearest 100? Now, are we going to round down to 400 or all the way up to 500? We should round down. So we're going to round down to 400, but this is going to try to trick us. So 400, I think that's an awesome answer. I'm going to fill it in because I do believe that is correct, but I'm going to check my other answers and see if any of them are wrong. So I have 410. Well, first of all, I know that's not 100 because that's a 10. So I'm going to go to the next one. 420. Again, I know that's not 100. That's a 10. So I'm going to cross that one off. And my final choice, 500. Well, I know this is wrong because we already said we're going to way rather go next door to 400 than all the way down to 500. So my answer is A. Okay, moving on to another multiple choice. So we're looking at different answers, choices. Don't get confused. We have to read the problem. Number 4, Jolan scored 194 points during the basketball season. What is 194 rounded to the nearest 100? Okay, and I apologize. I think that might be Yolan. Yolan scored 194 points during the basketball season. What is 194 rounded to the nearest 100? So what is this about? Basketball, scoring points, a lot of points. Okay, second read. Yolan scored 194 points during the basketball season. What is 194 rounded to the nearest 100? I'm looking at hundreds. And last read, Yolan scored 194 points during the basketball season. What is 194 rounded to the nearest 100? So I know I'm looking for 194. So since we are looking at hundreds, here's my number, 194. I know I have 100. So my first side is going to be 100. My next side is going to be one more, which is 200. And right in the middle is going to be 150. Now, if I look at my tens, I can see where it goes on my number line. So 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, 150, 160, 170, 180, 190, 200. So I'm going to go all the way to 190, put it right here, 194. Now, let's see our answer choices. Do we want to round 194 to 100? We're going to go all the way back here to 100 to round to the nearest 100. No, that's so far. Okay, let's look at our next choice. 180. Well, 180 would be about right here. So I can label that if I want to check it. But I don't know why I would round to 180 when it's a 10, and this is asking me for 100. So nice try to trick me. Next one, 190. Oh, again, oh, that's really close. That's super close. But that's a 10, not 100. I'm gonna cross it off. Let's double check. 194 would round to 200, not 100. So D is correct. Way to go. All right, so now you have number 5 on page 23, number 6 on page 23, number 7 on page 24, and last but not least, number 8 on page 24. I want you to stop this video. I want you to pause it. I want you to work on number 5, number 6, number 7, and number 8. And then I want you to come back and check your work and see how you did. Okay, I'll see you in a couple minutes. All right, welcome back. Number 5, round to the nearest 10. Which number will not round to 590? Now they're trying to trick us. So we are rounding to the nearest 10. So I'm looking for numbers that will round to 590. Okay, so I'm gonna put 5. How do I want to do this? I'm actually gonna take that away. Okay, so I'm gonna draw a new number line, and I'm going to look at tens. So I'm gonna look at the 10 before 590, which is 580. So trying to trick me, like on that game you played. And then I have 590, and if I'm counting by tens, 580, 590, and then we would have 600. So we're gonna see where these numbers fall to see which ones will not round to 590. So if they do not round to 590, so let's see, 596. Okay, so 580 to 590, it's not gonna be in there. 590 to 600, it's gonna fall in there. So let's cut this in half. I have 595, so I'm counting by fives here. Now, 596 would be right about here. So would I round that to 590 or up to 600? You guys have already done this one, so you know that I would round this number, 596, up to 600. So this is a correct answer. It says which one will not round to 590. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase this jumping arrows so that I can do another one. All right, here we go. 594. Now, okay, look at our numbers, 590 to 600. I'm going to put 594 on this side of 595. So now I'm at 594. This one, we remember, is 596. Okay, so I know if I'm less than halfway, I go down. So this number will round to 590. So I don't like that one. It's asking me which ones will not round. Okay, let's try another one. 588. Ooh, now I'm at the 80s. All right, let's see. So 580 to 590. I'm going to cut that in half. 585. All right, 588. Well, that's going to be closer to 590. So if I rounded that, I would round up to 590. I'm not going to go all the way down to 480. So that one is not right. Okay. I'm going to erase my little jumps here so I don't get confused. If you have lots of jumps on your paper, that's totally fine. I just don't want to be confusing to my viewers here. All right, so this one was 588. And then we know the last one is 585. Well, I know anything at halfway or past halfway rounds up. So does this one round to 590? Yep. And we don't want that. We want the ones that do not round to 590. So if you got A was your answer. Yay. You did it. All right. Awesome job. Let's look at number 6. Now you should have done this one as well. So this is a true and a false one, and we will see this a lot of times on our quizzes and tests for our math. We have one column that says true and one column that says false. So we're trying to find out which, if the statement is true, it's right, or if it's false, it's wrong. So it says 496 rounded to the nearest hundred is 500. So, okay, so I'm gonna jump back and forth between hundreds and tens. So 496 rounded to the nearest hundred is 500. So I'm looking at hundreds, so 400 and 500 for the first one. And I know that 496 is like right by 500 because it's 96, it's almost 500. So this is true. Okay, this is true. Okay, now let's look at the next one. It says 496. Now don't get confused because it's asking us the same number. Rounded to the nearest 10 is 500. Well, I'm just going to change this. I had 400 and 500, but now I'm going to change it to 10. So I'm going to do 490 and 500 so I can use the same number line. All right, so let's see. I'm going to cut this in half because I like that. I'm going to be at 495. So I'm looking at my tens, 490 and 500. So if I have 496, yep, it's halfway. It's past halfway. I'm going to round it up. This one is also true. Haha. All right, now I have a new number. So I'm going to erase this. If you need to draw another number line, that's perfect. I only have one on here. So I'm just going to erase and start over. So here we go. Here we go. 205 rounded to the nearest 10 is 200. Okay, so we're looking at tens when we're looking at 205. So I know my 205, so I have 0 hundreds. I mean 0 tens, 0 tens. I have 2 hundreds. So my next 10 will be 210. Now I'm going to cut this in half. And between 0 and 10 is 5. So I'm going to have 205 in the middle. And it's asking me 205 rounded to the nearest 10 is 200. So if it's at halfway, we go up. So this would not be 200. It would be rounded up to 210. So this one is false. Really good at filling in those bubbles. All right, and last one. I'm going to erase again. Thanks for being patient with me while I erase. And my last one says 745 rounded to the nearest hundred is 800. Okay, so we're going to do this one pretty quickly because we should be getting in a good habit now. So 100, 100, 700, 800, right in the middle, 750. Looking at my number, 745 is less than that. So I know right away I'm rounding down. Oh, that's a crazy arrow. This one is also false. So I have true, true, false, false. Nice job. All right, which numbers will round to 250 when rounded to the nearest 10? Okay, so we're looking at the nearest 10. All right, let's look at our numbers. 200 and 250, so this must be 210, 220, 230, 240. So let's call this 239. But if I'm looking at the tens, this one isn't even close enough, because if I was rounding to the tens, my number would have to be in here. It would have to be between 250 and 240. So this one is absolutely wrong. This one is crazy wrong. So A, no, dislike. All right, let's look at the next choice. Oops, I'm sorry. Here we go. 2 hundreds, 5 tens, and 0 ones. Which numbers will round to 250? Well, this is 250. So yes, it's 250. All right, let's go on the next one. This number is 100, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. 1, 2, 3, 153. That's not even close to 250. So this one is crazy wrong. No, 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 no. 259. Well, that one is, if I'm rounding, I'm thinking about rounding to the tens. That's almost 260. So this one's crazy wrong. All right, so last one, 245. Will 245 round up to 250? Yes. So my answer is B and D. B and D. Nice job. Last one for today. A total of 778 tickets are sold to a charity event. Round the number of tickets to the nearest 10 and the nearest 100. Fill in the blanks to show how many tickets are sold. So I'm looking at the number 778. I'm going to round it to the 10, and 778, I'm going to round it to my 100. So here we go. If I draw a number line, I like number lines. 778, I know that 70 is my 10, 770, and 7 would be 80. Halfway would be 775. I know that 8 is more than 5. Be right here. So I would round up to 780. Now, last one, same number. Here's my number line. 700, 800, cut it in half, 750. My number 778, let's say about right here. So I know I'm going to round it up to 800. All right, you guys, that was so much math. Okay, your last thing for today is that we have a quiz tomorrow. So to practice for your quiz, you just did all those questions with me. You may also, remember, practice makes perfect. So you on your math lesson have extra practice. It says ABCYA, rounding game, or ABC, yeah, rounding game, round to the nearest 10, round to the nearest 10, round to the nearest 100. All of these awesome things are going to be great practice for you to rock your quiz. Thanks for sticking in there with me. We are done with math. Make sure you practice. Quiz tomorrow.